Welcome to A Taste of Justice. I'm Professor Angela May Kupenda. The videos I'm recording this semester are shorts on the First Amendment. In the text box below, I refer you to some longer clips on some of these topics. So let's get right to it. What we are studying here is to give my students a bit of a review, a preview in class, and for all of us to learn more about the Constitution. Pure speech is protected. It's protected from content regulation by the government, unless the government meets the most exacting level of review, or unless the speech is in an unprotected category. So what we've been doing here is we have been considering some of the unprotected categories. We've looked at speech that advocates illegal action. We looked at obscenity. Well, not looked at it, but we considered speech that was obscene. And we also, in this video, we're considering defamation. And in the next one, we will look at fighting words. Now, just for informational purposes, I'm a professor at Mississippi College School of Law. I've been teaching altogether about 30 years, but all interpretations here are my own and are not to be ascribed to my students or to my school. Now, pure speech is protected from content regulation, but some speech falls in an unprotected category. Today, we're going to consider an unprotected category called defamation. Now, for those of you who are enrolled in law school, defamation is a topic that I've seen tested on bar exams. With the defamation question, the bar examiner can test your knowledge both of tort law in terms of the personal injury and also of constitutional law as related to the First Amendment. So make sure you take a look at listen to the longer clips that I've indicated below in the text box that will tell you more about defamation and what I call defamation-like cases. So the major case dealing with defamation and the First Amendment is New York Times versus Sullivan. And in the other video, I tell you about the fascinating history behind that case. For now, I just want to briefly review for you some of the major points that the court made. So I guess first we should start with what is defamation. Defamation is speech that misrepresents or is false, that is published, and that harms a reputation or causes other injuries. Defamation is a tort, and pursuant to the relevant state law, an individual who is defamed may be entitled to recovery or to be compensated for injuries, and maybe also for punitive damages to punish the individual who defamed the person. Now, as I said, a major case is New York Times versus Sullivan. The main points, some of the main points out of the case, the court said this. They said, let's be clear about it. The First Amendment is not there to protect lies and misstatements or misrepresentations about the facts. The court said that's not the purpose of the First Amendment. The court said, however, erroneous statements are unavoidable. They are inevitable in free debate. And these erroneous statements must be protected to some degree if freedom of expression is to have the breathing space it needs to survive. So the court is saying the First Amendment is not there to protect your lie. However, some lies are unavoidable if we are going to have robust debate. Now, the third point, the court said that where the discussion is about a public official and their official conduct, the court says we want robust, uninhibited debate. And that as people engage in this debate, they may come up to the line, and occasionally they may cross the line from truth into a lie. Now, if you're dealing with a defamation question, the court says you have to consider the nature of the person who was defamed. Was it a public official in their official conduct? Or was it a public figure, someone who does not work for the government, but someone who has thrust themselves into the forefront of a controversy? Or is it simply a private figure? Well, the court says it matters. It matters. The court says where you have a public official or where you have a public figure, they can engage in self-help to correct the record. In other words, they can call a press conference and people will come and they can clear things up and state the truth. So the court says they are less concerned with the reputations of public officials in their official conduct and public figures who have thrust themselves into the forefront of a controversy. In those cases, if a lie is told on those individuals, even if state law says they can recover, the court says they cannot recover unless the public official or public figure is able to show that the lie was told with malice or reckless disregard as to whether it is true or not, with actual malice. For private figures, a state can use any standard it wants as long as it requires at least negligence and a higher standard if the state wants to award punitive damages. So again, I have the link to a video that goes over this case in far more detail. Don't you want to learn more about it? So make sure you watch that video. Now, there are some cases that do not neatly fit under the category of defamation, but I say they are defamation-like. They are similar to defamation. Let me give you some examples. Let's say there is a television minister who is a public figure, and a magazine runs a fictional story about the minister. The magazine says it is a parody of fictional story, and it makes some comments about the minister's first time of sexual intimacy and causes the television minister much emotional distress. Can the television minister recover for intentional infliction of emotional distress, or does the First Amendment protect the parody of the magazine? What do you think? Who should win in that case? Let me give you another one. Let's say there is a church group And this church group believes that God is punishing the United States because of the country's views about sexual orientation that the church group disagrees with. And as a result, the church group protests at the funerals of military individuals, of soldiers. They're protesting, maybe not that specific person, but they're protesting there because of their views that these deaths and injuries are the result of the country's views as to sexual orientation. The father of a deceased soldier, a protest was held not too far from the funeral, and the father sues the church for the intentional infliction of severe emotional distress. Should the father win? Should the father prevail, the father of the soldier, or should the church win based on their claims for First Amendment protection? What do you think? Let me give you one more. Let's say there is a young woman who was sexually assaulted, and a newspaper has a policy of not disclosing the names of rape victims. However, the police department accidentally leaves the name and the identity of the woman in one of the rooms that the press uses, and the reporter publishes the woman's name. And as a result, she suffers greatly. The woman sues the newspaper. Should the woman prevail who sues the newspaper? Or should the newspaper prevail because they said they were publishing truthful information, although it may have caused harm, or it did cause harm to the woman? Who should win there? These are examples of the cases that the court has decided that I call defamation-like. They are not strictly defamation because it's either a parody or it was not making, and with the church not making any specific allegations about the specific soldier who had passed away. Or in terms of the woman, the newspaper was publishing truthful information, although it was very private. Who should prevail, the First Amendment or the interests of these other individuals? Well, you think about it, and in the text box below, I'm giving you the link to the video that talks about those three cases and more, and how the court has said that the First Amendment should respond. Remember, learning is so important. Learning about the Constitution, about our Constitution, will lead us to more enlightenment and freedom and justice, or maybe at least to a taste of justice. You subscribe and sign up for notifications. I'll be back. I hope to be back in a week. And then I'm going to tell you about the fourth category of unprotected speech, and it is called fighting words. You take care. See you soon.